Hi, I'm Lisa. I'm a compulsive overeater. I weigh and measure 3 meals a day. I write them down. I commit them to my sponsor. I don't eat in between meals, no matter what. And abstinence is the most important thing in my life, and I do it without exception. And my abstinent date is February 3rd, 1997. And I'm really anxious today. I haven't shared on a gray sheet. I haven't qualified on a gray sheet meeting for a while. And I hadn't been to a lot of meetings before COVID. Probably the best thing, probably the only good thing I can think of out of COVID for me is coming to gray sheet meetings and seeing people's faces. Just very quickly, I will share what I was like and what happened from a really early age. Like really early, I was in the food. I have a memory of my mother taking me shopping. I was like 3 or 4 to Sears, and they used to have a sugar counter in there. And my mom, to get me to behave, would take me to this counter and get me a little bag of stuff. And so I was using food to comfort myself, like really early. And I have memories like all through my youth and when I was a teenager of just gravitating to the food. When I was alone and afraid, and I would make something that pops, and I would put like a pound of grease on it. It would be like soup, but it comforted me. And I learned very early to take my comfort. And I also learned there was in my home, my father especially was really, he was a little bit obsessed with what I ate and what I looked like. And we had a lot of arguments, and we had a really adversarial relationship because of that for a long time. And I blamed him. And in fact, I blamed him for being overweight. And in fact, I think part of the reason I gained so much weight because I was a compulsive eater. And I just ate. When I got here, I was about 300 pounds. I did that as a just screw you to my dad for everything I thought he had done to me, everything wrong I thought he had done. So typical, right? I'm going to show you, I'm going to hurt myself. And I started, very early. I was 11 or 12, and my mom took me to Weight Watchers, and she says I'm the one who wanted to go. I remember it differently, so I don't know. But now that I'm a mother and my son is 12, I'm like, I would never take my son to Weight Watchers. What is that about? Why would you? Anyways, but my parents did the best that they could. And, and throughout my teen years and for about the next 10 or 11 years, I struggled. My weight went up and down, and I would join. There was a program. I'm from Sudbury, Ontario. And there was a program that was only in Sudbury, I think, and I went to it, and I lost a bunch of weight, and my dad splurged and bought me all these new clothes, and I was so excited, and I looked great, and then I gained it back. And then I tried Nutrisystem for a while. I tried Weight Watchers again, like on and on. I would do these programs, and I would have, for a while, I would lose weight, and then I would just gain it all back. But eventually even the programs, stopped working. I remember when I went away to university, and I remember I would go to Nutrisystem, and I would pick up the food, and then I would stop at the grocery store to buy all the stuff I was going to add to their food because their food was not enough, right? And that's just what I did. And my roommates at the time would look at me because they had a little like this thing that they would make, and I would add like just all this greasy stuff to it, and they were looking at me strange, and I'm like, what are you talking about? That's just food. That wasn't enough, and I needed more. I always needed more to fill up that hole in my soul. I should mention too that I also drank, and I'm a member of AA, and but I never needed to look at my drinking because I did always know I had a food problem, but I also, what I've learned since I got abstinent is that my eyes lie to me. My eyes lie to me when I'm looking at food on a plate and when I'm looking at myself in a mirror. And when I look back now, I was normal weight in high school, but I felt so fat. I just felt fat. I felt not good enough. And, and that just followed me. And so by the time I hit my 20s, I started going up in weight. And I found a woman who she did a group for people who had eating disorders, because I did know I had an eating disorder. I did know there was something going on. I didn't understand what it was. And so she was actually in OA, but she ran therapy groups, and I went to her, and I had great success, but I couldn't maintain it. And I stopped eating sugar and I stopped drinking and doing some other things, but there was no set food plan. There was no fellowship. There was no kind of support. There was no 12 steps, no principles, none of the work that I need to do to get better and maintain it. And, you know, I went home for Christmas that year, got into it with my father. I think I started eating first and then I started drinking and I was off to the races. And 3 months later, I sat in her office and I said, and I don't know where this came from, I said, I think I've done as much as I can until I quit drinking. And I went out and kept drinking for a year and eating. And a year later, I got sober. And when I got sober, I asked this woman to be my sponsor. And I didn't know at the time because she was this tiny little thing and she was full of life and so vibrant, but she was bulimic and anorexic. And I didn't understand that she had the same disease I had. I didn't even understand I had a disease then. And it's actually quite funny because when I went into AA, I was not eating sugar. And she told me, because this is how the disease works, she told me I could eat a frozen dessert that was sweetened with natural sugar because it was natural sugar and it's okay. And I was like, yes. And it came in a little tub. And within a week, I was eating a big tub because that's the way my mind works. And so that kind of set me off in my first year. And I was actually just talking with someone, you know, the big book actually says eat sugar. Drives me bonkers. But anyways, I did. I ate a lot of sugar and carbohydrates. And by the time a year later, I was about 300 pounds. And during that time, my first AA sponsor moved away and she found GreySheet and she got abstinent and she shared her journey with me. And she started saying things to me like, I would call her with the problem and she would say like, well, just weigh and measure it. And I would get so mad, like, what the frick are you talking about? Just weigh and measure it. I have a real life issue here and I need some help. And, you know, she would just keep saying that. And then she came to visit me. And so I saw what she did. And I got actually really, really mad because while I was out at work, she cleaned my kitchen because my kitchen was a mess. And she said, well, I couldn't weigh and measure in that. And I was like, what? How rude is that? And now I'm like, I have a family. I'll go up and there's breadcrumbs. First thing I do, I clean off that counter. I put all of that stuff away because it's not mine and I need a space. And so I get it now. But at the time I was like, wow, she's really rude. Didn't get it at all. And didn't get that maybe I was putting her abstinence in jeopardy the way I ate. So, and during that, my first to second year in sobriety, I was looking for a program and she kept sharing about GreySheet. So about 6 months into that, I finally asked her about it and she shared it with me. And I was like, yeah, I talked to somebody about it and I was like, yeah, no, I can't live without some of this food. And I was like, no. And I had a sponsor actually in AA at the time and she got abstinent and sober at the same time. And she had a food plan that worked for her. So I tried it. And what she had done was at the beginning, she weighed and measured everything, learned what like half a cup of something would look like. And then she kept eating that. So I did it. After 3 or 4 days, I just eyed it. And, you know, within 1 or 2 days, this much became a full plate because my eyes lie to me and I just want more and I can't trust myself. And so that December, I went to an OA meeting because they did have OA meetings. There was no GreySheet in Canada at this time. And I went to an OA meeting and I was sitting in this OA meeting and a guy came in and he said, well, you know, last night I slipped, I ate this sugar thing, but I got right back on. So I'm good today. And that was like my last OA meeting ever because I remember sitting there and my AA brain went, that's not right because I don't go to a bar, have a shot of something, and then go to a meeting and say, I'm still sober. And I was like, no, this is like, it's like, I can't do that. And so I knew at that time, like, I knew I was probably going to have to do GreySheet, but I wasn't quite ready. And I went through Christmas and it was horrible. And shortly after Christmas, when I got back to Toronto, I was at work and I got a meal from the food court and it would have been considered abstinent at the time. And, you know, I think about it. It wasn't a big binge. It wasn't some crazy like thing that I did. It was just a meal because I was in public, so I couldn't really binge and eat how I wanted to. It was a respectable meal, but I felt really tired after. I was really tired, and I wanted to sleep under my desk, and I was at work. And I called my sponsor and said, I can't do this anymore.
Sweetheart, just wanted you to know that's 10. You got
Okay,
5 more.
thank you. And so I called her and I asked her to be my Grey Sheet sponsor. And I lost my abstinence twice because I put a boy in front of my abstinence, and I didn't make a phone call when something went wrong. And I just did what I wanted to do. And then on February 3rd, 1997, I got abstinent. And I have been abstinent since that day. And as anybody who's been abstinent for a while, I've had a lot of ups and downs in my life. And I have stayed abstinent through all of them. And, you know, I got all of the things I thought, well, how do you get married? Well, I got married abstinently. I did it. I asked, you know how I've done most of these things? I ask people for help. I ask people for help beforehand. I ask them to tell me how they did it. I ask them to share their experience. And then I prepare my food, and I have food in the fridge, and I have food ready to go. And I remember when I was pregnant, which was actually probably one of the best. I probably felt better about myself and my body than I ever felt when I was pregnant. And I remember there was a long story, which I won't go into. When my water broke, I was really nervous because there could have been a problem with my son. And after I made a couple of phone calls, I got out my cooler and I packed my food, because that's what I do. When life happens, I take care of the food. If I need to weigh and measure a next meal, I do that. If I need to call my food sponsor and change something, I do that. Like whatever it is that I need to do, I do it for my food. And other people who know me but don't know Grey Sheet have remarked to me, why can't you, do what I do around the food, around everything in my life? And I was in a step 7 meeting before this, and it's like, I don't know. I just can't. I do the food, and I set parameters around that, and you don't touch my food, and I'm not changing my food for you. I don't share with my kids, even though they ask, like all of these things, because I need the parameters of the Grey Sheet. Without Grey Sheet, without the food plan as it's dictated, like I cannot live with food. And Grey Sheet gave me a way to live with food, because I need to eat to live. And when I talk to other people about it, I just say, like, food is in its proper place now. And so I call my sponsor, I'm done. And I don't think about, what am I going to have and what is this? And, and I do. I live with 3 people who eat food. I'm lucky my husband is not an adventurous eater. So our meals are pretty simple, and I can prepare our meals, and I can prepare their food, and then I can set it down, and like it's not mine. And there have been a couple of times where I've had to say to my husband, I'm doing my own thing tonight because I need to just take care of myself, and he takes care of the kids. And he's not in Grey Sheet, but he's in AA, and he totally supports me and gets it. And he actually, if we're in a restaurant and I need something, he goes like all caveman on me, and he's like, he's going to get it, and he's going to make sure I'm fine. And I'm like, thank God for that. And he also says he's seen how I've done sweeteners and gum and diet soda, like all of these things on and off. And he's like, I've never seen you compulsive eat, but I've seen you eat those things. I know you're a compulsive, like he gets it because he's seen me do that stuff. And it's like, yeah. And that's, who I am. And so, as I said, I've been, the Zoom meetings have been amazing for me to reconnect with people and connect with people. I did spend some time in my first 5 years in New York, and I went to meetings and seeing some of those faces. And I'll be really honest here. I felt a bit like a fraud when I first started coming to the meetings, because I'm like, I haven't been to enough meetings. I don't have anything to share. And I actually said that to my sponsor 2 weeks ago, because she was like, we were on a Zoom meeting and she sent me a message that I should share. And I told her, and then I got asked to speak here, and then I got asked to speak at another meeting. And I was like, okay, well, that's my higher power taking care of me and telling me that I do have something to say. And then I need to get out of my own head, and my head still lies. And then just one last thing. I'm going to finish up. You know, I was actually, I decided to join an AWOL, which I just started, and I have a sharing partner, and it was really interesting. We were talking, and we have a really similar story. And then we were sharing about something because during her abstinence, she was sick. And then I shared with her that when COVID first happened, and one of the things I've been struggling with is I'm in perimenopause now, and my body is changing, and I'm not happy with what's going on. And we were talking about it, and it's basically I've put on some weight, not a lot. I still look fine, but I don't like it. And I can't do the things I would do. I can't give up some of the foods and make the choices I make, and it just falls off. It's just not happening. And I need to accept
Sweetheart,
this.
that.
One minute? So just quickly.
I forgot. I'm sorry. I'm
okay,
sorry. Take your time.
I'm going to just wrap up. And so I was talking to her, and I said, you know, at the beginning of all this, I remember hearing Chris Cuomo sharing about when he got COVID and that he lost 20 pounds. And my brain went, that wouldn't be so bad. And I stopped myself, like my brain, like I am sick, that I want to get a deadly disease that I could die from because I could lose 20 pounds. Like how? And that, I remember shaking my head going like, that is a reminder, like I am not, my brain, I'm not well. I'm not well, and I need to be here. And the Zoom meetings, like hearing other people and all of the things, I've just needed to hear all of this and be reminded, like, because I don't get it in AA, I get it here, this food stuff, and I'm not well. So, you know, thank you, all of you, for being here and for asking me to speak. I so appreciate that, and seeing all of you, the Hollywood Squares, the Gray Sheet Squares. I love this. So thank you so much.